The Grandmothers Are Superheroes project is an interactive project. In the visual arts, we call that social practice or relational aesthetics. And so it's community-based, and I'm interested in people's perceptions of strength in grandmothers. And so I'm asking them to participate as a fellow artist in this project. This is an installation, so these students with disabilities become practicing artists with me as they recreate an image of their grandmother as a superhero. So we go through a whole process in their classroom of talking about the strengths of their grandmothers. And we talk about how sometimes her strengths are things that annoy us. Like it could be that she hugs us too much or she makes us clean our rooms, right? And we turn that into a superpower. So we go through these lists of questions, and then we, based on that specific information, help them develop a superhero name. And there certainly are some catchphrases, like you put Captain in front of just about anything, and it becomes a superhero name, right? Captain Flower Power, right? So or Lady, you put Lady at the end of something, or the at the beginning, that also becomes the signifiers for superhero names. So if her name is Captain Flower Power, we're gonna have some flowers in the drawing. Maybe she's holding the flowers, maybe she's planting the flowers, maybe her hands are flowers. And I like to give them a lot of creative options to choose from to kind of spark their own creativity. Sometimes they take those ideas and run with it. Sometimes it just helps them create different ideas. And then they do the drawing. I've done this project in lots of venues, and asking people to draw in a public forum and telling them that that drawing is then going to be placed in a gallery setting, it can be very intimidating. We all experience that. I don't want to be an outsider, or I don't want to be rejected. And then if you have a disability on top of that normal human fear as you're growing up, I'm sure it just compounds your guard, or reinforces that barrier between yourself and others, and between yourself and the willingness or ability to engage in any sort of creative project. When a person knows the expectations and they're dealing with a lot of fear, if they know those expectations, that creative impulse can be more accessible. And so if a child with disabilities, if a student with disabilities knows exactly what we're doing right now, this one small little step, they're gonna have a greater access, a greater willingness to be creative in that step, so that their fear doesn't overwhelm them and shut them down. Sometimes I sped up, and sometimes I slowed down depending on what they needed at that moment. Certainly an increased level of positivity and that redirection, but also being very, giving them one step at a time. So I did show them images of finished work, and I did show them overall, the images of this installation. But when it came time to them working, I definitely broke down the project into sequential steps so that they could find success in each step. Because I wouldn't expect a child with disabilities to be able to hold all the steps in their mind at once and then act them out one at a time. That to me wouldn't make sense. So I really tried to be directive and concrete in my direction about what we were doing at what particular time. So yes, we had to overcome some barriers with many students to get them started, but then once they got started, it seemed like it could roll a little bit smoother. So the Grandmothers Are Superheroes project is critical, I think, for students with disabilities to participate in, because it is transforming a person that we might consider as weak or less important, a grandmother, and transforming her into someone that has these super strengths and superpowers. In the process of making it, we talked about how these everyday characteristics are really things to be applauded, and then thinking about themselves in the same way. So looking at their disabilities as strengths, looking at their everyday lives as having strength and wisdom, looking at the way in which they find happiness as a strength, the things that they like as a strength, the things that they do that might annoy one of their friends as potential superpower.